From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan the Tennessee Pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. And, oh, geez, friends and neighbors, fellow conspiracy realists, it feels so good to be back to the best part of the show, you and all of your fellow listeners.
We like you guys. Stick around.
Oh,
That's
please
right.
do. Please do. You might be on the show this evening. We're going to talk with several people. We don't know how much we'll be able to get to. We had some excellent conversations we alluded to about the our episode on the Manchester Pusher, because again, props to you, Matt. That's one of the many ideas I was digging up through the trenches, and I originally didn't want to do it, and you said we had to, so credit where it's due. You were absolutely correct. We actually had some law enforcement right back about that one. We're going to hear from, additionally, we're going to hear about some hullabaloos internationally. Let's see what else we got here. We got Randy of the bigger variety. Then we also have a little bit of a DIY project. And we have such wonders to show you. Is that the line? Is that the line?
Yeah.
From Clive Beck?
You
Hellbound Heart.
You nail it every time. Or you know, Hellraiser, the movie, the ride.
The adaptation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what do we say, gents? What if we pause for a second for a word from our sponsors? Full disclosure, by the way, Noel and I have not really had a chance to super kick it with you, Matt, or with you, Dylan, post travel. So making some space there to see. How are you doing, man?
Just upset that you're spending time with another Matt when I'm not around.
Stillo is the matted question. We like him too, but he can never replace our Matt. You're the OG Matt. Matty two hands. Matty both hands. Matty.
All right. Well, yes. Doing good, Dylan. You doing fine?
Oh, yeah.
Dylan, the audio engineer, by the way, has been doing more than, I'm sorry. What I'm describing is Dylan's abilities to engineer miraculous audio. We've got this saying that we use when we start recording, talking
that
about
Dylan created.
Dylan created in the first place. What is it, guys? Digging up the
Time to
rutabagas?
dig up the rutabagas.
Time to dig up the rutabagas. And somehow it's just ballooned into this. Every single week we do listener mail. Dylan has contributed a new dig up the rutabagas sound cue. And I think we're going to make space here at the beginning of listener mail to hear those. I think.
Further behind the scenes, while we're peeking, Dylan, I want to give credit where it's due, that you have done a tremendous job of approaching and interrogating genre in the phrase dig up the rutabagas. Dylan, can you bless us and our fellow conspiracy realists playing along at home with tonight's clip?
Time to dig up the rutabagas.
Woo! I love it, Dylan.
Oh my
the
gosh.
Smooth jazz, which I think we all need a little more smooth jazz in our lives.
It sounds like a public radio, like pledge drive bumper. Just the music, that kind of smooth AM gold vibe that you found there. Good job, sir.
And with that, we're going to pause for a word from our sponsors, and we'll return to hear from you.
And we are back. We are jumping to the phone lines to hear from Alpha Flight, who called on February 4th, 2025. That date is important because the day before, there was a certain NBA game that was played that we're going to hear about. And then we're going to have some further discussion. So here's Alpha Flight.
Hey guys, Alpha Flight here. Calling in regards to this hullabaloo between the tariffs with the U.S. and Canada. Realize it kind of seems a little bit benign in addition to all the craziness that's happening on your end of the border. Just a couple crazy things that happened even just today. Specifically the fact that within the span of about 4 hours here in Ontario, our Premier Doug Ford, who is the brother of former Toronto Mayor and crack enthusiast Rob Ford, retaliated with the LCBO to the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, where they took all of the American alcohol off of the shelves, which is apparently yearly a roughly $1 billion industry. Also paused a $100 million deal with Starlink, as well as blocked and made it illegal for American companies to have provincial contracts within Ontario. And my understanding is a lot of the other provinces followed suit with this. Now, the crazy thing that happened is all that seems to be off the table now because President Trump recanted his tariffs for at least 30 days. So it was great, but the whole feeling of uneasiness here between Canada and the States. I just kind of wanted to get your take on it. Just feeling a little weird between us. This relationship's feeling a little strained. I was actually at a Raptors game yesterday, and the national anthem, the U.S. national anthem, I should say, was booed very loudly. The Canadian obviously was cheered immensely. So it's just things like that it just seems so un-Canadian for us to be in this kind of said hullabaloo before, but I'll say I'll upgrade it to a full-blown kerfuffle between the two. So, I just wanted your takes on it. Anyway, love the show. Love hearing from you guys. And I won't bring up that thing, Ben. Don't worry. My nose is in there. Your secret's safe with me. All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Man.
All right.
Guys, Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, just echoed most of that sentiment in a public statement or a public press conference. So he talked about, we're hurt over here. We don't understand why our partners would do something that would try to hurt us. It feels as though the administration of the United States is trying to collapse injure the economy of Canada. And he said the thing about booing the national anthem, but then he also talked to individual humans who are Americans saying, we're not mad at you. We're still your brothers and sisters and all of that. So I don't know. Yeah. We feel bad. We feel weird about it too.
But before we get into the full kerfuffle here for discussion, let's hear from that national anthem instance at the Toronto Raptors game. Played on February 3rd, I believe it was, 2025. This is just a quick little snippet, just so we hear exactly what Alpha Flight's talking about.
Woo. Mm-hmm. That is a vibe.
Doesn't feel good at all.
Well, it's not you guys' fault. You're not we're not at the helm of the wheel of power here, but it is understandable. And if I could just take a moment and say, first, Alpha Flight, thank you for referencing one of the best superhero teams in all of comicdom. And then secondly, thank you for your confidentiality. Let's keep that incident.
What was the super team? I might have missed that.
Alpha Flight.
Oh, I don't know about it. Tell us.
Alpha Flight is awesome. It's I don't want to derail this. I'll send you way too many links. I also have some graphic novels.
What universe is this from?
Alpha Flight is Marvel universe.
Got it. Just making sure. Cool.
Just to make a quick point, that it's certainly there's no responsibility felt when it comes to just feeling bad hearing the national anthem booed. I think it's just generally a
feeling of being an American.
Yeah.
What it means right now, whether you're complicit in it directly or not, we are seen as Americans. We are seen as party to this kind of stuff. And it feels bad.
Well, it makes you understand why Alpha Flight is just feeling personally so uncomfortable with it, right? On a personal level, it just stings in some way, all of this stuff. So, gosh, I guess there's so much to discuss here. We're going to be discussing tariffs at length very soon in an episode, but this is just getting us up to date on some of the real-time stuff that's happening. Even today, on March 7th, as we're recording this, there are live updates occurring where there are just back and forth, essentially retaliations that are occurring, where tariffs are going up against Canada. Canada is retaliating with tariffs against the United States. And then threats about further tariffs against Canada are being made by the President of the United States. And it is just going back and forth and back and forth. And nobody is happy, I don't think. At least the human beings that are going to be affected by these decisions and statements we're not happy.
Russia is super gassed.
Seems that way.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to destabilize maybe allies that could be
Just been feeling a little destable, guys, just as a citizen, you know?
Huh.
Well, consider, we saw the some of the correspondence via conspiracy.iHeartRadio.com regarding the attitudes of what the media is selling to the public. Right. In our earlier episodes, we explored the works like Foundations of Geopolitics by Alexander Dugin and how this is step in step. The current U.S. policies are indeed step in step with some of the goals outlined in that work. Please do check out our previous episode. I do also just want to point out this has already held immediate consequences for the economy of certain states, particularly the economy of Kentucky, which is reliant upon selling alcohol to the north, up north. And you can find many viral clips now of Canadian institutions or stores, grocery stores, whatever, pulling American products up to and including the hard liquor from the shelves because they are American.
Yeah. The liquor board officially said you cannot sell American liquor anymore. So it's gone. It's off the shelves. It's too bad. And then you can go to canada.ca and you can find a, quote, list of products from the United States subject to 25% tariffs effective March 4th, 2025. And guys, when I say this one's a scroller, It goes everything from meat and edible offal of the poultry heading 0105, fresh, chilled, or frozen, all the way down to rice, all the way down to cane or beet sugar, pastas, at literally everything and anything that you can imagine that is a product that could be imported from the United States is on here, including lighting fixtures and lighting fittings, seats, other furnitures, firearms, other firearms, refrigerators, glassware. It's literally everything.
You gotta love firearms and other firearms because I love, it's like reading between the lines in these statements. Somebody goes, okay, yeah, firearms. And then someone got in front of it and said, nah, the other ones too. Smart guy.
Yeah. And then just 10 hours ago, the BBC wrote about how Donald Trump or, the United States government has expanded some exemptions from Canada and Mexico from the tariffs. And then there were official statements made literally moments ago before hitting the record button where President Trump is threatening 250% taxes on dairy that's coming from Canada, as well as major taxes on lumber that's coming from Canada. Which is something has been disputed for a long time, the basically trade of lumber and dairy from Canada to the United States. And then you've got the Starlink contract, which was in fact canceled, and then a proposal for 100% tariff on Tesla-made vehicles. And it just feels like an unending, at least currently, unending perpetual fight.
Yeah, the word would be brinksmanship because a lot of these things this is classic 1980s Wall Street negotiation kind of tactics. You start off with something crazy. So, and I mentioned this in something previous. You start off with something crazy, right? And bellicose and threatening. And then you pull it back so that the real crazy thing you want looks normal, right? Like if you were talking to your significant other, your parents, your kids, your roommates or something, and let's say you wanted 5 parakeets. 5 parakeets is a crazy thing to get. So the way that you get 5 parakeets is you say, we're getting 40 parakeets or I'm burning down the house. And then you wait for them to say, that's crazy. And then you step it down slowly to 5 parakeets, which is still crazy, but now it looks normal. That is similar to what's happening now. A lot of these proposed tariffs are not going to come to pass in the same way that they are loudly proclaimed originally.
Well, we already have like a stay of at least one of them with Mexico, and a tweet or a truth or whatever that came out kind of, I don't know, it felt like somebody else wrote it, first of all, but just basically saying, oh, we came to an understanding. Everything's cool now. Only certain types or classifications of goods will be subject to tariff. And it just felt like a full walk back. And I guess on the last episode we just recorded, I mentioned a lot of chatter on the internet and elsewhere seems to be accusing the president of market manipulation with this kind of stuff. And I just wonder what you guys thought about that.
Potentially. But I don't know. I don't know enough about.
Well, just walking,
sectors.
just doing like a, I mean, obviously the markets react to this idea of things being more expensive, and then to announce that it's happening, and then at the 11th hour pull back on it. Kind of allows your rich buddies to buy low and sell when it comes back up. I don't know. It's just it could be a move. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's a nice follow-up to what I was just saying a few moments ago. Like, the idea is that you deconstruct the concept of normal, right? You rephrase or reframe what should be considered acceptable activity. You walk in and you say, this thing that has always been $50 is going to cost $200 for you now. And they say, no, that's crazy. And then you keep making outsized threats, and eventually you get to what you really want, which is to charge $60. This assumes, of course, a somewhat rational actor.
Yeah. Well, there's another tactic we learned about within the real estate world where you'll allow a swath of a city, let's say, or a suburban area, to lose a lot of funding, or remove some funding from it. You destabilize that area. You let the prices in that area fall and fall and fall and fall, and the value of it to fall, so that the wealthy individuals, often investment groups, can come through and cut it up, and a bunch of groups can come in and buy it for real cheap. And then you put the investment back in, and now it's super expensive again. I wonder if something like that is happening on a massive scale, for purposes we are yet to know.
There are a lot of players in the game. The U.S. national parks may well end up being sold off in an unprecedented way. That is on the table now. We'll also see with the rise. Look, we're going to talk about this, as you said, Matt, a lot in our episode on tariffs. What we see is that protectionism is a real tricky beast to ride. And in some cases, it can benefit the people, the public individuals, and the private industries of a nation, but it can often come back, like the pendulum swings in very small increments, and it's very easy to go too far to one side of the pendulum, especially when you're looking at products, goods, and services that a country has to import. You know what I mean? I'm thinking in particular of very sensitive things like chips, right? Computer chips, or just regular chips as fans of snacks.
Yeah, food is important. And if you get most of it from outside, then how you get that food and how much you pay for it is pretty important. All right. Well, guys, there's way more to discuss here, but we're going to leave it at that. Let us know what you think about this situation, how it's affecting you, how much that Dodge Ram is going to cost that you once had as a pipe dream, but now is unattainable. That's a thing now. Anyway, we'll tell you how to contact us at the end of the episode. And for now, we will hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
And we have returned with more messages from you. Yes, you got a couple of real strong ones today, y'all. They're always strong. But first off, let's talk to Big Shucks, who wrote in with the following missive. How illegal is it to scam people who are trying to do something illegal? My idea borrowed from a podcast, which I think he later determined to be our podcast. Make a .onion dark web murder for hire site. Take their money, but don't do the murder. Where do I stand legally? This is such a good question, right? Because, I mean, I guess, guys, if you're getting wind of a crime that is potentially going to be committed, it is your duty to report that crime and not profit from it and then not tell anyone, right?
It reminds me of our conversation with Carl about the kill list, because that's precisely what happened. Spoiler.
Yeah. We had this fantastic interview with a guy who's now our pal, Carl Miller, wherein he explores a real life example of this, which perhaps inspired you, Shucks, to write to us there. As far as I can tell in conversations with Carl, this is somewhat of a legal gray area with light spoilers. In at least one instance, law enforcement was in contact, and I wrote to Big Shucks about this. Law enforcement was in contact with someone doing exactly what Shucks describes, and they didn't arrest him. They did not put the guy in jail. They did not fine him. No civil nor criminal action. Perhaps it was a greater good argument, but legally dicey.
Well, so law enforcement discovered this individual on their own. He didn't come to them to try to be a good Samaritan and report this, evildoer, right?
I believe the latter is true, if I recall correctly. But again, this is not us recommending anything but checking out Carl Miller's
No, absolutely.
show.
But I guess the question being, if you did scam somebody, they took their money and then reported them, are the cops going to look at your bank account and question, whether or not you took money from this individual? Is that even? Because I guess that's where it's less of a legal gray area and more just we're just happy to have the tip.
Maybe, but then also we get to things about the provenance of profit. For instance, if you were engaging in human trafficking or one of those other unclean endeavors, and then you were saying, okay, I'll take your money. I'm pretending, to sell you human beings. And then maybe it's an order of operations thing. Maybe you do go to your local law at first and say, I found these people. But the question, I didn't really get to this with Shucks, but the question is then, why, does law enforcement not have this? One of the questions would be, is a vigilante or is a civilian acting of their own volition, are they therefore somehow indemnified from the laws we have regarding the concept of
I was going to ask the
entrapment?
same question, Ben. Entrapment seems to be a big part of it. Because you could certainly, To Catch a Predator, for example, that TV show, I mean, you are lying to someone and you are coercing them to a place, to a location under false pretenses, but it is in the interest of catching them in the commission of a crime. And I guess that is entrapment, but those end up on TV. How does that work, guys? I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were two websites discussed in Kill List. The first one was the main one that was on the dark web that was used, and people paid tens of thousands of dollars sometimes to put out
Multiple times.
And sometimes, $5,000, $2,000, but to put out a hit on somebody. That was what the Kill List followed primarily. But there was a second one called rentahitman.com that was it became a satirical thing. At first, I think it was rent somebody who I can't remember the specifics, but it was meant for a different purpose, and it was a fun title. It was a fun web page domain, right, that they used. But then it ended up several times. There were several instances where versions of this Hitman for Hire website was taken over by law enforcement, and the exact same thing, the scenario you're describing there, Noel, happened, where it was actually the authorities watching you try and pay $5,000 to put a hit out on somebody.
Happens a lot with CSAM, which is the acronym for Child Sexual Abuse Material.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it should be something that is permitted. I do just wonder maybe where the legal gray area comes in when it comes to individuals doing this. It's interesting.
Yeah, for law enforcement, though, we need to make this point. For law enforcement, one of the primary concerns is, first off, making a case clean and having incontrovertible proof, And the second aspect, obviously, is going to be the possibility of causing further harm, even with the best of intentions. So there are real reasons that these laws exist. And the tough thing is that often, if you look at the way of the world, often law enforcement is at a disadvantage because they are obeying a rubric of behaviors and rules that criminals are simply not beholden to. So I'm on the side of catching bad guys.
If you want to read more about this really quickly, you can head over to Rolling Stone. There's a 2020 article titled "How a Fake Rent-A-Hitman Site Became an Accidental Murder-for-Hire Sting Operation."
There you go. Thanks, Matt. And thanks, Big Shucks. Next, we got a quick one from Dave. Hi, guys. I enjoyed the 2-part podcast. Yes, the CIA hired magicians. Thought you might get a kick out of this project, Bug in a Book, that I developed for the Spy Tech edition of Make magazine and subsequently delivered as a workshop at the International Spy Museum in Washington, where I met Bob Wallace. And he sends a link to covert-team.net, where you can see this DIY build a bug literally inside a listening device inside of a hollowed out book project. And I don't know, I'm super into this kind of wiring and soldering and sound capture and stuff, but this is be a pretty cool project to take on, maybe even like with a young tech enthusiast in your family.
I do love that point, and thank you, Dave, for this. Agreed. It's new Crystal Radio, it's new little Pinewood Derby kind of project. It reminds me very much, and Dave, you'll doubtlessly know about this. It reminds me of a series of toys we talked about back in the day called Spy Tech. It was a different time.
I had the mirrored sunglasses that let you see behind you. I remember those. I don't know if I ever, and they had like some walkie-talkies and stuff too, but there were tons of cool little kits that you could get, but it was, toy level for sure. And this, what's being described here, it actually works. It really is. If you look at the website, it is an shirt pocket amplified listener, hearing aid with an in-car FM transmitter. These are the devices that were combined to create a wireless bug that you can then tuck into a hollowed out book, a Bible, whatever. It's got to be thick enough. And then you can, use it concealed. Just slide it into the bookshelf of whomever you want to surveil. Or don't, without their consent. That's not a good thing to do, but it's
illegal.
Well, it depends on your state. It depends on your state. If you're a one-party consent
cool with this.
In the U.S., you can monitor without consent.
So that's, thanks for the tip on that, and would love to get a hold of one of these. And lastly, maybe this one is what I should have led with, but it maybe is outside the scope of what we have time for today, but I do think it's worth mentioning this message that came from Aaron A. Aaronson. And I'm just going to, among multiple things that Aaron A. Aaronson contacted us about, I'm a big fan of this revelation. That was something that I wasn't aware of. Amongst all the stuff that's happening with Trump trying to turn the world upside down with his cronies, one thing was announced that got lost in the volume of announcements: the creation of a sovereign wealth fund, SWF. What is a sovereign wealth fund, you ask? It is a national fund owned by the government that uses money to invest in anything and everything to grow wealth for the country. They trade openly and are more common than people think, with many nations around the world setting up these funds to act independently of their government with the sole purpose of making money. Some of the most famous ones are the national funds of oil-rich Arab states, where they are investing any oil profits as to be able to diversify their economy and or have a source of income once the oil runs out. It's their sole income generator. Other nations have these funds set up so as to create a piggy bank for future liabilities that might not be able to be met and or would place undue pressure on the taxpayer. Our listener here is from Australia and talks about how in 2006 they set one up to meet the unfunded pension requirements of public servants. I was definitely familiar with these type of funds used in Arab nations to invest in things like infrastructure and like all kinds of economic development programs and things. And when Ben and I were in Qatar recently at a big giant tech conference, we were certainly seeing all kinds of startups that were likely benefiting from this setup and getting funded. Everything from laying fiber by telecom companies to even like apps, like food delivery type stuff.
Yeah, agreed. The sovereign wealth fund, or sovereign investment fund, as they're sometimes also called, it's a thing where you have a bunch of money that your local nation state has made, and they want to take, in theory, collective responsibility to engage with money management for the betterment of the nation, however that may be defined. And as you described, Noel, we happen in areas of the world where this stuff occurs. Personally, I have an abiding interest in these sorts of funds, what I would call, in correspondence with Aaron, what I called the least harmful SWF was Norway's, or is Norway's, because Norway has made quite a bit of scratch off their fossil fuel industry. However, they are at a certain point, as you point out as well, Aaron, they're past a certain threshold of size financially, such that if they put too much money into a domestic thing at once, then they can distort the market in a way that, weirdly enough, ends up hurting people. So there's definitely more to explore to this story, and so much got lost with all of the, I'll be diplomatic, all the strident declarations or pitches coming from the current presidential administration. It's hard to know.
Well, yeah, and Aaron also points out that since the U.S., unlike some of the other nations that he mentioned, doesn't have nationalized businesses that have value that can be sold, like oil profits or whatever, to fund this kind of stuff. The idea would be that all of this stuff would have to be borrowed. And also, one thing that I've heard is that within this portfolio, it could involve investing in things like cryptocurrency, and certain what would be considered like almost meme coins, that, and with the lack of transparency in that type of investment. So that was interesting to me as well, because there's a lot of talk in Washington about, crypto reserves and all that. But we also know that stuff historically has been pretty risky.
But it has a recent history, to be fair. You know what I mean? Crypto hasn't been around forever, and neither has sovereign wealth fund. One of the most surprising things we learn about it in our research is at least the language of it. The name only comes about in like 2005, right? Shortly before this show began. And the actual, what we call the entry point for something like a sovereign wealth fund in this concept, I don't know. I mean, obviously something like this existed before there was a name put on it. Mansa Musa in Evenings of Old absolutely broke multiple economies of Northern Africa just because he was too rich and had too much money. In this case, literally gold. The problem is still the same, but please check out our episodes on the U.S. Treasury, and it'll tie into our tariff episode as well, because the money moves, and sometimes more money makes more problems. Shout out to
so huge thanks to Big Shucks, Dave, and Aaron A. Aaronson. Really appreciate you writing in and giving us some stuff to think about and talk about. Let's take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back with our last bit of listener mail in today's listener mail episode.
We have returned with the final act of our weekly listener mail segment. This one, we'll keep it kind of short, but I think it's something that is of interest to all of us. Not too long ago, we received an excellent piece of correspondence from someone going by, check out this name, you guys, The Wandering Wizard. I kind of like it. I think it refers to maybe those memes that have been going around where it's a picture, an excellent painting of a wizard. Wandering? I think they're both the same, So, have you all seen those excellent memes of like old school paintings of a wizard saying, hanging out with your bro. I never see you at the club. Yep. But you say you never see me at the club. I never see you at the Sky Fortress.
Exactly. Yes, I love those. I've sent them to a few bros, including yourselves. I could swear that I've sent you guys some wizard memes at some point. I've been a big fan of the format for sure, Ben.
Mm-hmm. We are big fans of wandering wizards. And just to get in front of this, we can confirm to you guys, our pals from This Is Important have absolutely nothing to do with the wizards rapping. that has been confirmed to be a common misapprehension.
Yeah, those guys that know the workaholics dudes.
That's it. That's the only relationship they have. Our wandering wizard writes to us and says, have you guys done a show on the prophecy of the popes? The current pope, Pope Francis, is the 112th pope that we know of, and the prophecy has only listed 112. Thought it might make for an interesting episode or deep dive. Either way, love the show. You guys and your team are pretty great. Keep up the good work. I added the pretty so that we didn't sound, we have to caveat it a little bit.
It's so big.
So big. Have you guys heard of the prophecy of the popes?
Oh, yeah. I remember this from a while back because this has been around for a minute, right?
Yes, you are correct, Mr. Frederick. It is a series of, I would say, free verse poetry in Latin that claims to predict the future holders of the papal office. It was first published by a monk back in 1595. His name, Arnold Wion. Maybe Wion, W-I-O-N. And this guy, when he published it, he said, look, I'm getting this from another dude from back in the 1100s. His name is Saint Malachi. So, if it doesn't work out, it's not me. I'm quoting, Big Mally.
If you're searching it, it doesn't look like Malachi the way I know it to be spelled. It's M-A-L-A-C-H-Y.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A state of pure Malachi. Look, there's the alleged original prophecy, and then there's an interpretation of the prophecy. And the interpretation is really when we run into what I would call the Nostradamus problem. Did you guys ever really get into those Nostradamus quatrains?
Yeah, when we talked about them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We did. All right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. We talked about Nostradamus and the problem with prognostication so often, especially through the great telephone game of history, is that people will kind of read what they want to hear when they see these prophecies. Nostradamus, for instance, I remember there was an old book we picked up where they said they had some very vague thing, and the author tried to assure us it was entirely about the 1996 attack at the Atlanta Olympic Games.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's learn really briefly a bit about Saint Malachi or Malachi, just to set this up. This guy lives from 1094 to 1148 CE. So after the time of Jesus Christ, he is from modern day Ireland, and his final prediction is the following. We're going to read this in English, so we may lose a little bit in translation. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge, capital J, will judge the people. The end.
The end indeed.
Yeah, they had a hard period on that. So the idea is, the way people are trying to confirm this is by arguing that Pope Francis, as he's known now, he chose his papal name in the honor of Saint Francis of Assisi. He was born pre-papacy Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Bergoglio?
Good. Yeah, I think somewhere in between.
Yes, apologies for pronunciation, spelled Bergoglio. And some of the folks who really, put a full brunt of credence in this, they say this prophecy from Saint Malachi is referring to the fact that the father of Saint Francis, Pope Francis's namesake, is named Pietro, which translates to Peter. Feels like a little bit of a walk. Just going to be honest. Feels like a little bit of a stretch. Matt's doing a great shrug and clap.
What if Peter is the next pope? Because we know about the health issues going on right now. What if the next pope that comes in is Peter? What happens then? What do we do? Because then the prophecy is fulfilled.
Right. And what is the end? The seven-hilled city, by the way, is a description of Rome, of the Vatican, and the famous seven hills there. So I feel like that one we can safely interpret. But just yesterday, before we came in to record this evening, the Vatican issued a statement on the health of Pope Francis. As we know, he's been battling pneumonia, respiratory issues. He is 88 years old right now. He has severe bronchitis. The statement that was released said that they didn't say much. They said that he has had to cancel some events. Mainly, they're breaking the silence for millions and millions of faithful adherents of Catholicism who are worried about this guy. They said, essentially, like, this is how terse this is. You guys ready? We'll read the statement in full.
Let's do it.
All right. The full statement is, the Pope had a quiet night and is resting.
Yeah. But then he did record an audio message.
He did record an audio message. We also have a longer statement, right? In his longer statement, they said he's resting Wednesday morning, or people are quoting the Holy See press office. Reports are showing that he went through a scheduled CT scan to monitor his bilateral pneumonia. For all of us non-doctors, that's pneumonia in both lungs. That's double pneumonia. And I don't know. He's been in the hospital for 13, 14 days now.
Yeah.
What'd you make of the recorded statement there, Matt?
Well, I'll just give it to you. He said, quote, "I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your prayers, for my health. From the square, I accompany you from here. May God bless you and the Virgin protect you. Thank you." And that was it. That's all he was able to say, basically.
Yeah. And medical experts have described his condition as a complex clinical picture. It's not looking amazing. Like, it still seems to be an uphill journey. Apparently, the Pope himself has told some of his confidants that he is not 100% certain about his chances for recovery. And that's perhaps why, Wandering Wizard, the idea of the prophecy here, the prophecy of the popes, has come back into the public eye. I don't know, because we talked about other prophecies that are incorporated into Catholicism, and I have to ask you guys, what do we make of this? Is there legitimacy? Are people reading tea leaves? Is this something we should keep a closer eye upon?
I don't know. Look, man, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now. At every time in history that we've had this kind of discussion, it's felt like, oh, we're probably on the precipice. The old doomsday clock is where it is. The
Mayan calendar got misinterpreted.
Yeah, but just everything, it feels there's enough turmoil to make it feel as though, oh, the end is certainly nigh, and this is just another prophecy that says it's happening. And it already feels like it's happening. So I think there's just that reoccurring confirmation that we continually have been getting over the past, 20 years?
Yeah, there is something, I don't want to say self-important, but there's something devilishly tempting that we see in every iteration of human civilization, which is the people living at the time seem pretty convinced they're living in the end times. There's not a historical record of a civilization going, this is great, it's amazing, nothing's going wrong, and nothing will go wrong. We're starting from square one.
Yeah. But not often has the world been on the precipice of the next world war, right? That's only happened 2 times. And the third one
is nigh.
If we're not counting the Bronze Age collapse.
Oh, no. 100% correct. You're absolutely right there. I guess in maybe modern history, I guess that's...
There we go. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I mean, there's another thing. There are a lot of people arguing, more skeptical folks in the crowd, arguing that just like the Shroud of Turin, the prophecy of the popes is a forgery, and that it was not rediscovered in some ancient Roman ruins, but that it was instead composed around 1590. And the timeline makes a little bit of sense because we have to remember this is back when people were, selling a bunch of reliquaries left and right and little shards of the true cross. People were joking about this, especially the skeptics centuries ago. But maybe we should pay closer attention to these things, or at least do an episode about it, because look, we're in the moment. We're here with you folks. And as Matt was saying, it does feel like we're at the nigh point. We're at DEFCON nigh.
Yep. I mean, pretty much. Oh, wait, what was that other thing? Is there an asteroid headed towards Earth?
No, they said that was going to be fine. They said that was
3 point.
And they got reduced to like 1.6?
Right. That's that's a positive news.
It is.
Yeah, was it 3.1% for a second? And I was like, hey, maybe I should, get back into cannabis, because what does it matter?
Get to the moon, baby. That's what I say. I'm just playing. I'm joking, everybody.
I'm just playing.
My feelings,
and
all of it, guys.
Also, to be clear, the world is ending for someone somewhere every day, right? As we record, and we have to exercise empathy. We'll keep this part short. Tell us what you think about the idea of a prophecy of the popes for our adherents of Catholicism in the audience tonight. We support you. We know this is a incredibly scary time, and the only way that all of us get through our present days is by moving together. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. We would love to hear from you. Big thanks to Alpha Flight. Big thanks to Big Shucks. Big thanks to Dave. Nice one on the bugs in the books there, Dave. Big thanks to Wandering Wizard, everyone else that we didn't get to, including you, Mr. Aaronson. We will be back soon. In the meantime, join us out here in the dark. Find us on the emails. Find us on the telephones. Find us on the lines.
Correct. You can find us at the Handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook, where we have our group Here's Where It Gets Crazy, on X, FKA Twitter, and on YouTube, where we have video content for you to enjoy. On Instagram and TikTok, however, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show. But wait, there's more.
We have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. It's a voicemail system. When you call in, you've got 3 minutes. Give yourself a cool nickname and let us know within the message if we can use your name and message on the air. If you got more to say than can't fit in a voicemail, maybe you've got attachments or links, why not send us an email? We are
the entities that read every piece of correspondence we receive. And you can always just go straight to this. Tell us whatever is on your mind. We monitor it 24 hours a night, 7 evenings a week. Be well aware, yet unafraid. Sometimes the void writes back. But you might be asking, how can I know this is true? Well, there's one way to prove it to yourself. Step a little further from the light. Join us out here, conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.